Hi, welcome. Joining me today is award-winning author and poet Lisa G. Samia. Now, Lisa's been on the show before when she talked about having hope and faith through cancer. And we thought it'd be fun to catch up with her and see what she's up to now. She was my second guest, so you can go on the website at carlaagustin.com and check out episode 2. It's really a remarkable story. So Lisa, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me, Carla. It's wonderful.
I'm so excited you're here.
It's a pleasure.
Now I want to share with the viewers how we actually met. I happened to catch an episode of you on Channel 8's Connecticut Style program where you were talking about your story, about going through cancer, and basically how you had an intervention really by Mother Mary.
That's right.
And I was so intrigued with it. I couldn't get it out of my head. And then 4 months later, I decided to have my own show. And I'm thinking, with that super cool lady come on my show? And I reach out, and you said, sure.
Absolutely.
You called me right back, and I am so grateful because you didn't know me, and you just completely trusted and said, sure, I'll come on. And it's been delightful.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Good. So, you've been busy.
Yes, I have.
It's been a little over 3.5 years, we figured out. And I'm going to have Rob put up on the screen all the books, because when you first came on the show, you had your first book.
That's correct.
Right? You had your first book, Don't Be Afraid of 50.
That's right.
And here we go, 3 more. My name is John Singer, the man with the ice blue eyes, and the nameless and the faceless of the Silver War.
Yes, that's correct.
So tell me, do you consider writing spiritual?
I do, Carla. I believe it is actually a gift. It's a spiritual gift. I've always loved writing, and I never really believed in myself. And then, I don't know, I was sitting at my cube at work, and I saw the 50 thing coming, and I'm like, if I don't do something now, when am I going to do it? And so that's when the process came. That's when it started, Don't Be Afraid of 50. And subsequent to that, in the summer of 2012, and after I had done Don't Be Afraid of 50, I was like, I thought it was going to be this new self-help guru because it's a self-improvement book. Well, nothing came. Nothing came. In the summer of 2012, I noticed that there was a lot of talk of the 150th anniversaries of different Civil War battles. And I've always loved history and American history, Abraham Lincoln, and I started writing My Name is John Singer, which is a fictional account of John Wilkes Booth. And I just felt that that was the summer of 2012, and it was the fall of 2012 that I was diagnosed with cancer.
Wow.
So it was, when you talk about it, is it spiritual? I believe that it was a guidance that I was getting to continue my writing, to never give up, and to keep going. And it was this particular book that kept me going through my cancer and my treatment, and the desire that never ever left me. And it just really meant a lot to me to keep looking at that book. And finally I did finish it. So yeah, so yes, it is spiritual.
It is spiritual for you. What inspires you to write?
I'm inspired, actually. It's not so much for me an inspiration as I'm compelled to write.
Oh, okay. Tell us why.
It's just a lot of my writing has been, as you can see, it's about the Civil War and some history, and poetry and heartache and things like that. And I think that it's just this feeling that I get that I am compelled to sit down and to put it forth into words. It's a very, very strong feeling that until I sit down and until I get the hands on the keyboard, it won't leave me alone.
Okay.
That is how strong it is. It's like a calling. It's not so much an inspiration as I'm compelled. And until I finish the task, whether it's an article or I'm out speaking or whatever it is, it's never satisfied until I have completed that process.
Isn't it something? It's like the universe. It's like the universe is by your side,
Correct.
isn't
It's
it?
guiding
Don't you
me.
think when you're
Absolutely.
on your path?
Exactly.
When you're on your path, the universe is there next to you. I think it's funny how we can go down one way, like you said. You thought you'd be a self-help book writer, guru.
Didn't work out.
But it's okay. It's
It
like
is.
then you can look back and think, well, I was getting through cancer, and then I was getting through turning 50, so it was just getting me there.
That's right.
And now I can go off
And to do other things.
and do this in this direction.
That's correct. Yep.
So I have heard you say, I follow you on Facebook, and I've heard you say, and you say it a lot, never, ever give up. You say those 4 words, never, ever give up. Explain that to us further.
I say that all the time. You are correct. On my
do.
Facebook, sometimes I'll just say never ever give up. And I say it so that people understand that when you want something, I wanted this writing career. I wanted my good health, and God was good, and He gave me good health. He helped me through the cancer, and I'm okay. And I'm so humbled and blessed by that. But, you know, when it came to wanting this, wanting to write, wanting to explore that part of myself, which I had kind of contained because I was, you know, working in an office, you know, working in commercial real estate, and working. They're great jobs, they're professional jobs, but it was never completely satisfying to me because I felt that there was something more I could be doing. So when I say never ever give up, I say, if you want something bad enough and you can't get in through the front door, go around to the back door. If you can't get in through that back door, then smash a window. Meaning, don't let the thing that stops you from getting what you want or getting to that next step be your own fear.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, bingo.
That will hold you back, and that held me back. And that's why the name of my first book is Don't Be Afraid. Because I was. And it wasn't until I said, I have to do this. And if I don't do it, I will never know, and I'll be here for the rest of my life, never pushing those boundaries and taking that chance. And I didn't know if I was any good.
Right.
So that's scary. I didn't really know. So, you know, sometimes.
Well, that's the going out on the ledge.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it is. But to pay attention to that stirring that is there, and it won't go away.
No, it never
will it? No, it won't go away. You can ignore it, you can give up, but it's never going to go away when you are meant to do something, when you're meant to go down
that road.
certain road.
Yep.
Yeah, so believe it.
And you know, the interesting thing was subsequent to writing, and now I do articles, and now I'm speaking in different historical venues. Never in a million years would I have seen myself doing that. But that is the progression that, again, never accepting a closed door. I don't accept a closed door. There's ways of networking and going around here and trying this way and then trying that way to get yourself where you want to be. Never give up.
No, never give up.
Never give up, because when you fail when you don't try.
Exactly.
If you try and if you don't get it, well, you can try again. But if you don't try, you fail.
And I think when you are doing what you are meant to do on this earth, one of many things that you're meant to do on this earth, the universe won't let you fail. If you listen to the guidance, I call it picking up the breadcrumbs. It'll take you step by step. It won't say, okay, guess what? This is, it didn't surprise you with Lisa, in 3 years you're gonna have 4 books.
Right.
Like it doesn't flip you out, right?
Right, exactly.
It takes you, okay, you write this book, now we're gonna move you to this book. Now it just is like this wonderful guidance in the universe.
I feel so blessed. Because also a part of my writing is trying to get back to that part of the community that needs that we can provide hope and faith, and that that not only is it about writing and the things I love to write about, but it's also writing about cancer and sharing the love and sharing the hope and sharing the faith. That's correct. Don't ever give up on that either.
And don't ever
There's
give up on that.
always a way, you know, that you pray, and whatever deity that it is that you believe in, certainly, but it is that you pray and you believe and you're thankful. Always thankful first before you ask.
Yes. Gratitude.
Gratitude.
So huge.
And humbling. And then, so that's also a part of where I'm coming from.
So it's very intertwined for you.
Yes, it is.
Isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Your
Yes, it is.
experiences and then what you do and
That's
then
correct.
your passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, you do have this fascination with the Civil War. What's this about?
Well, in the summer of 2012, I became aware that there were anniversaries of the 150th anniversary of some Civil War battles. And I've always loved American history. I've always loved Abraham Lincoln, the president, and some interest in the Civil War, but not to the extent that I realized when I was becoming aware of that. What does that mean? It means, like, well, if you're on Facebook, you see different things going on, or you see different books coming up available on Amazon, and I'm like, that's interesting, oh, that's interesting, that's interesting. And then the next thing you know, I was writing a short story about actually a fictional account of John Wilkes Booth, because I became also very intrigued by the Booth and the Booth family and John, and I was like, wow, you know, there was so much I didn't know about the assassin of the President of the United States. And that intrigued me. And so then that kind of morphed into this fictional account of John Wilkes Booth called My Name is John Singer. Subsequent to that, I did have a poetry book come out which contained 2 of my award-winning poems called The Man with the Ice Blue Eyes. And then subsequent to that was my latest book called The Nameless and the Faceless of the Civil War. And what I saw in this collection, or what I see in this collection, is I relate to a lot of the suffering. Because when you've suffered, suffering through the pain of cancer, the physical and emotional pain of cancer, you understand more of the suffering of others. And again, in realizing about the Civil War, I blurred the lines of North and South in this collection. And you're saying, why did you do that? There's no governance of politics here, because this collection was about the fact that when it involved suffering, there are no boundaries, because it's universal. We all suffered, and
it's
these
no more, no less, no matter whose side you're on,
it didn't
no matter
make
your
any
beliefs.
difference.
It doesn't matter.
If you would, you know, when this book especially, it's 28 poems and 28 essays about the Civil War, giving a voice to those who have no name and no face, but who nonetheless fought or experienced the war. They're telling you through the narrative of the poem and the rhyme of the poem what they're seeing and what they're feeling, and these are actual historical events. And they're telling you, watching the city of Richmond burn, they're watching General Sherman come to Atlanta. Somebody's watching President Lincoln being brought into the Peterson House from the 3rd floor, and they're trying to find their way down to where President Lincoln was brought into the back of the Peterson House after being assassinated, because this person is telling you they want to go and comfort the president. And so these are the things. This was the emotion that I found.
Well,
and
it's clear. It does have a lot of emotion. Now,
yes.
I've read all your books.
Thank you.
And I've told you, I think this is my favorite.
Yeah,
I mean,
you have told me.
The Nameless and the Faceless, okay? The Nameless and the Faceless of the Civil War. And I'll be honest with you, too. I'm not, like, super into poetry. But this grabbed me, because what I loved is that you give the poem and then you give the background to it. So you give the history lesson behind it. And then I found it so powerful in reading it that way.
You,
so
Carla.
I really enjoyed it. So I was hoping you'd read the one called Andersonville.
I would be happy to.
And which is based on Andersonville Prison,
Correct.
which was a horrific
It was a
place,
horrific.
right?
It was a death camp. Actually, it was a
unbelievable.
It was in Andersonville, Georgia, and it was a Union prison camp for Union soldiers. And it was, I believe, built to hold about 10,000 prisoners, and it swelled to 30,000, and so many died. Just in the most horrific, just being in prison. They would come in healthy and strong, and within a month they would be just, it was unbelievable. And the words were inspired by the prison war diary of a Union soldier called Michael Dougherty, and he spent quite a bit of time, unfortunately, in Confederate prisons, in Libby Prison and Belle Island Prison in Richmond, and finally he ended up in Andersonville Prison. And it was his recollections of, and his diary.
So he wrote.
He wrote. So he was telling you, like, 10 men died today, 30 men died, men are dying at 100 a day. And I'm reading this, and I realized, well, they was somebody's son, brother, uncle, and who were they?
Yeah.
No name and no face.
No name
and so
and no
then
face.
That's how I came
love
up
how
with
you
the
bring
title
recognition. Yes.
to them.
Yes.
So may I?
Yes, please.
And I'll just go on to say, but for those who were never identified and who suffered so long ago, this collection reaches into the past and gives them a voice, a place to tell their tales of compassion, life, death, agony, and grief as a reminder to the world that they did not die in vain. The name of this poem is Andersonville. I ask you, God, to please hear my prayer for those of us left crying in despair. Captured prisoners from the North we stay, left here in prison dying each day. What could we have done, dear Almighty on high, to be tortured each day and left to die, with nay even enough water to drink that was not even clean? I am on the brink of madness, of death, whichever comes first. It's Andersonville is hell on earth. I see my comrades, once so bright and strong, crumble in pain. This is so wrong. And so each day that God gives me breath is another day I beg for death. For surely the Almighty must see the agony of those surrounding me. And in the dark of night we hear the baying hounds that surround the stockade, such haunting sounds, screeches here and there that pierce the night, that remind us wholly not to fight. For if I could ever escape this evil place and tell the world of such disgrace, yet somehow I hold that history will tell the story of Andersonville, the story of hell.
Wow, yeah, that's emotional. You really captured what it, I mean, it's so hard for those of us who've never been in a prisoner of war camp, which is most of us, right? And to really understand, and you know, you're reading it, and I'm thinking to myself, gee, all the more when we're having a good day, when something nice happens to us, whatever it is, our cup of coffee tastes good, small, just to show gratitude to the universe. Almost right, because there are people suffering to that extent, right? Even right now, I mean, there's people suffering to this extent, you know, and it's like so important, I think, to really, I don't know, in a way like of honoring them, just to be grateful. You know, we're free, we live in this country, you know, all this kind of stuff.
And that's why, again, there's the lines were blurred because
yeah, he didn't want to say it was this side. It's not this side was worse. This side was worse.
And I believe North and South are equally represented in this collection. You know, generals and presidents and things like that. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So, so switch it up a little bit because we're getting towards the end. But tell us about your project, 6-Word Hugs. All right.
That is a project that I'm exceedingly and exceptionally happy and proud of. About a year ago, I contacted a Facebook friend of mine, and he had been watching my writing career kind of take off a little bit last summer. And at the end of the summer last year, I contacted him and I said, well, maybe we should, get together and, and visit. And he's actually the CEO of an ad agency in New Haven called Gem Agency. And so he invited me down to his office in New Haven, and he had been telling me about this. He's also, beside a CEO and a very successful one, he's also a brilliant poet. You need to know he's a brilliant poet.
You share that.
So we share that common denominator. He was telling me about this project that he was involved in called 6-Word Leadership. And he was telling me about it, it's a calendar, and he had these beautiful scenes on the calendar and 6 words of leadership. This was geared for inspiration and leadership, I believe like in a corporate type setting,
Sure.
To inspiration, that type of thing, to strive and achieve. And when I sat down with him, I said, Chris, I said, I have an idea. And he said, well, tell me. And I told him, I said, it's called 6-Word Serenity. It was originally called 6-Word Serenity. And I said, I have this idea about doing a calendar like you did for 6-Word Leadership, but for cancer patients. Because all cancer patients, from the time that they are diagnosed until the rest of their lives, are governed by the calendar. And what better way to have this this sense of serenity or peace than to have a saying basically like you are doing on a calendar, something that says this event will not define you, or breathe in
encouragement,
exactly,
and inspiration,
breathe in hope,
truth,
breathe out fear.
Right.
And so that concept has now developed a little bit further into 6-word hugs, and we're developing that concept because it was brought to our attention that, as Chris is my partner, brought to our attention that a hug is more of a universal.
Isn't it though?
It is, and we're embracing this and moving forward with this concept because we felt serenity was just a little bit limiting, and that a hug was a more of a universal feel, because when we greet each other and we're trying to help each other, we're trying to share, we hug.
Yeah.
And that is more of a universal concept. And so we are moving forward with that, hopefully to have a calendar to that effect, or to perhaps screensavers in medical office, on the screens in the medical office, or perhaps as you're going into, and again, this is the original concept was for medical.
I would love to see it in doctor's offices
exactly,
while you're waiting
sitting there up on their screen.
That would be so great.
With a beautiful message of hope and peace and faith and encouragement through whatever battle it is. Now again, it could be
any battle,
any battle, job loss or the death of a loved one, but we were gearing it towards cancer initially because that was the concept that it was my way of giving back. I felt that, God gave me the cancer.
Yeah.
He saved me from the cancer. Okay? And I believe that the mission was obviously, to me, it's very obvious, to go forth and to take the experience and to try to help other people.
I love it.
That is where it's coming from. And I'm so humbled and grateful that I have a partner like Chris who totally understands this and who's totally on board with trying to bring this out into the marketplace.
Oh,
it's
it'd be
very,
wonderful.
and of course a portion goes to cancer research, and we haven't quite worked all those 100% details out, but that is obviously paramount to the whole project. Why would you do that unless you're giving back?
Right, right.
So that was part of it.
Right.
So very excited
good luck
about
with
it.
That.
Thank you.
When do you think you'll be launching it?
Well, we're not quite sure. I'm hoping within the next several months. So check me out on Facebook, everyone. You'll see me there.
All right, now we are down to the last question, okay? And I went back, I rewatched episode 2, and you defined spirituality then as finding your own destination and your own journey through it.
Correct.
Extremely personal and different for everyone.
Correct.
You said, for me, it is the Blessed Mother because I reached out and was saved.
That's correct.
Yes. Do you still?
Absolutely.
Would you still define it that way?
Absolutely.
You still feel that way?
If at all, it's even stronger.
Really?
It's completely stronger.
Oh,
even
I love
from
it. Really?
even from that where I knew I had prayed to her to help me because I was terrified of the chemo.
Sure.
I was terrified, and I prayed on my tiny pieces of wood, as you remember, and I believe that I received a blessing, that the doctor, the oncologist, called me 2 days before my drip, that I was to start, and said, you don't need the chemo. And I'm like, I got on my knees, and I thanked the Blessed Mother who I had prayed to for help. And I believed I received that blessing. And so then I was so incredulous that had happened. I actually called the doctor back. I said, "Are you sure?" And he reiterated, "We never get to make this type of phone call." And then I knew.
Then you knew.
I knew. And subsequent to that day, I have never, ever waned or weakened or strayed from that is paramount in my life, and that is why I work hard.
You know when someone's working for you, don't you? From the other side,
absolutely.
You know when someone's working hard for you.
Absolutely. Stay humble, stay faithful.
Right, but boy, you're tight.
Absolutely.
You're tight now.
Absolutely. So that, if it's at all possible, it's stronger, because what I have brought forth through my writing, and what the deities have enabled me to do subsequent to that, has been absolutely incredible. As each door opens, or if there's a stuck door, I told you I don't go for that. I just go around the back. If it's on, I just smash the window. So and then to be able to give back, and to hope that the messages that we're writing, our messages,
it feels like an honor, doesn't it?
It does, because you're so blessed.
Yeah,
and to never ever forget how blessed you are. And I never do. I never do. Never do.
Lisa, thank you.
You're welcome, Carla.
This was so fun.
It was excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And I wish you all the best with everything you got going on, your writing, your project.
Absolutely.
That's terrific.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we're going to have Lisa's contact information up on the screen in just a moment. You can watch this episode anytime on my website at carlaaugustine.com. We have all the episodes up there for you. Be sure to go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel under Carla Augustine, and you'll never miss an episode. We're also on Facebook under Spiritual Invitation. I want to thank you so much for watching. This has been Spiritual Invitation. I'm your host, Carla Augustine, inviting you to explore spirituality.